Good morning. We will continue our discussion on turbojet engines, and we were looking at nozzles of turbojets. Okay, in the previous class, and previously we had considered uh, how to calculate the exhaust velocity if the nozzle is not choked. Okay, if the nozzle is not choked, we have seen that we can just calculate based on the change in the temperature or the enthalpy what will be the change in the velocity, and based on that we can find out what will be the thrust. And in the previous class we had seen what will happen if the nozzle operates at choked condition. So what is a choked condition? Choked condition means that the mass flow rate is maximum. The mass flow rate cannot be increased beyond that value, and it happens when the lowest cross sectional area, which is known as the throat. So for a convergent nozzle it is the end portion of the nozzle. So at that point, the velocity becomes equal to the sonic velocity. So when this happens, the mass flow rate cannot be increased any further, and the nozzle is known as choked. So at that point, what will be the velocity? The velocity will be equal to the sonic velocity at the critical temperature. Critical temperature, what is critical temperature? Critical properties are properties which occur at the sonic condition. Okay, so at the choked section, at the section of minimum cross-sectional area. So for a convergent nozzle, where the area decreases along the length, so at the end of the nozzle, the maximum velocity occurs and it is equal to sonic velocity, and the temperature is equal to the critical temperature, and pressure is known as critical pressure. Okay, and they are denoted by P star and T star. Let us quickly recap this part. So if the pressure difference across the convergent nozzle is large, the nozzle will operate in choked condition. To increase the exhaust velocity, convergent divergent nozzle can be used, but it is difficult to build. We have discussed it is difficult to build a convergent divergent nozzle with variable throat area. Okay, but you need a variable throat area for the choked section. You need a variable throat area because the mass flow rate will change for different aircraft velocities, as the intake velocity depends on the aircraft velocity. So hence, even for supersonic aircrafts, convergent nozzles are used, not convergent divergent, unless it's a very high-speed aircraft. For most supersonic aircrafts, like whatever is used in design, uses convergent nozzles, where the throat area can be changed to accommodate variable mass flow rate. So, for convergent nozzles, what happens is that the pressure at the outlet of the nozzle is equal to the critical pressure. So it is higher than the ambient pressure. So as a result, we are unable to expand the fluid up to the ambient pressure. Always you want to expand the fluid to the lowest pressure if possible, so that you can get maximum velocity out of a nozzle. Okay, but for a convergent nozzle, because even before going to the lowest pressure, the nozzle becomes choked, we are unable to expand the fluid to the lowest pressure. We are able to only expand the fluid up to the sonic pressure, or this critical pressure. Okay. As a result, there is a pressure difference between the exit of the nozzle and the outside ambient pressure. This leads to some additional thrust, which is known as the pressure thrust. Although the loss of the momentum thrust, because we are unable to expand the fluid uh, up to the atmospheric pressure, uh, because we are unable to expand the fluid up to the atmospheric pressure, leads to some loss in momentum thrust. Some of it is recovered as pressure thrust, but not all of it. And we have seen all this, discussed all this in the previous class. So what happens if the nozzle is not choked? So this is left diagram shows the condition when the nozzle is not choked. So in that case, the inlet condition to the nozzle is 0,4, which is the turbine exit condition. and the stagnation properties, stagnation enthalpy, not stagnation properties, the stagnation enthalpy does not change in a nozzle. Okay, if you use first law of thermodynamics, you will note that for a nozzle there is no work input or work output, and there is no heat input or heat output. So ultimately, H04 is equal to H05, where 4 is the inlet condition and 5 is the outlet condition. Okay, so the total enthalpy at the inlet is equal to total enthalpy at the outlet. What, however, changes is that the static enthalpy decreases in the nozzle, and this results in increasing kinetic energy. So H4 plus V4 square by 2 is equal to H5 plus V5 square by 2. Now, if V4 is negligible, if we assume that the inlet velocity is very small, so H4 is almost equal to H04. Whereas the H5 value, like V5 value, is quite large after expansion in the nozzle. Okay, so V5 square by 2 Cp, as shown in TS diagram, is denoted like this. So this difference between 0.5 and 5 points. Okay, so the static pressure is so this 5 point is somewhere much below the 0.5 point, and the constant pressure line going through this is the static pressure, is the pressure at the outlet of the nozzle, which should be equal to the atmospheric pressure, right? For this case, for case 1, where the nozzle is not choked. So if it was an ideal nozzle without any loss of, so without any frictional losses, we could have expanded the fluid up to 0.5 S, okay, which is at the same static pressure, atmospheric pressure. Okay, and we would have obtained a higher temperature drop from 0.4 to 5 S. As a result, we would have obtained a higher velocity at the exit of the nozzle, but because of frictional losses, we are obtaining a lesser velocity. Instead of V5S, we are obtaining V5. Okay, and this is given by the efficiency, isentropic efficiency of the nozzle. Okay. This is given by the isentropic efficiency of the nozzle. So how can we define the velocity? So ultimately, we are interested in finding the velocity at the exit. So we know what is P04 and T04 from the turbine exit condition, and P5 will be known to us because that is equal to the atmospheric pressure. So from this we can find out what is T5S. So T04 by T5S is equal to P04 by P5 to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma, where gamma is the gamma of gas. Okay, so I have written gamma G. So this gives us T5S, and then from the efficiency of the nozzle, we know that nozzle efficiency is equal to T04 minus T5 by T04 minus T5S. This will give us T5 because T5S we have already calculated. Once T5 is known, we know what is T04 and T5. So we know T05 should be equal to T04. Even with frictional losses also, stagnation enthalpy does not change, right? Stagnation enthalpy, ultimately frictional losses manifest as heat itself. So as a result, the total thermal content of the fluid does not change. Energy content of the fluid does not change. So H05 is equal to H5 plus V5 square by 2 Cp. So from this we can obtain V5 is equal to root over 2 Cp T05 minus T5, and because T05 is equal to T04, we can write that as V5 is equal to root over 2 Cp T04 minus T5. So this is valid for unchoked nozzle. This we have discussed in the previous class. For choked nozzle, what happens? We are unable to reach the ambient pressure. We are unable to reach the ambient pressure, so we reach a pressure which is the critical pressure. Okay, so this critical pressure is reached when the velocity or in another way, when you keep on decreasing the pressure, when a certain pressure is reached, when the velocity becomes equal to the sonic velocity at the exit, that pressure is known as critical pressure. Okay, so this critical pressure is defined by the red line. which is shown, which is given as the value is given as PC. So this is the actual critical pressure. Okay. So what happens is that ideally the nozzle should have expanded the fluid to 5s point. Okay. At the same pressure, but because of frictional losses, the fluid is expanded to the 0.5. Okay. So at 0.5, the temperature is equal to the critical temperature. Okay, at 0.5, let me just open it on the other side. These things we have discussed. I'm just repeating. You should have already read, because this is very important. I want to discuss it again. This is the choke nozzle case. Let us describe with respect to this diagram. So at 0.5, the velocity is equal to the sonic velocity. So V5 can be calculated as root over gamma r T5. Now we have to find out what is the value of T5. Okay, we have to find out what is the value of T5, because we know that velocity should be equal to sonic velocity. Sonic velocity is denoted by the symbol C. Okay, and the sonic velocity can change with location. So at this point, the sonic velocity is C5. At 0.5, the sonic velocity is C5. So V5 is equal to C5 is equal to root over gamma r T5. So if you remember, for an isentropic flow, we can write. We will use this one. Okay. Keep this diagram open. For any adiabatic flow, actually, this will hold true. T05 by T5 is equal to 1 plus gamma minus 1 by 2 m5 square. Or any case, stagnation and static temperatures are related by T0 by T is 1 plus gamma minus 1 by 2 m square. This we have studied multiple times, okay, where m is the Mach number. So for 0.5, T05 by T5 is 1 plus gamma minus 1 by 2 m5 square. Okay. So because Mach number is 1 at 0.5, we can replace m as 1. So this leads us to 1 plus gamma minus 1 by 2 into 1 square, which is gamma plus 1 by 2. Gamma here is the gamma of gas. So I'm not repeating gamma G. All the gamma will be gamma G in these cases. Okay. So T05 by T5 is gamma plus 1 by 2. And because T04 is equal to T05, T04 by T5 is also gamma plus 1 by 2. And T04 is known. It is the inlet condition of the nozzle. So it is equal to the exit condition of the turbine. So based on this, we can find out what will be T5. Okay. Because gamma plus 1 by 2 is known for the gas. Gamma is 1.333. You can find out what is T5. So T5 is nothing but the critical temperature, which is given by this expression. So critical temperature is equal to 2 by gamma plus 1 T04. So temperature we can find out. We can find out T5, and thus we can find out what is V5 for choked condition. Okay. So if we know V5, we can find out what is the momentum thrust. Remember what will be the momentum thrust? We have discussed again previously. Okay. So mass flow rate at the exit, m dot A plus m dot F into V5 minus mass momentum at the inlet. Okay, m dot A into VA, whatever is the inlet velocity. This will be clear today in a problem when we solve a problem. Now we also need to find the pressure, because there will be a certain pressure thrust. So we need to find what will be P5. Okay. So for finding P5, we have discussed that, say for non-isentropic flow, P04 by Pc is the pressure ratio, which gives M5. Okay, M5 equal to 1. Critical temperature ratio is same for isentropic or adiabatic flow. Okay. Because stagnation temperature does not change. So these things we have discussed. So From the efficiency of the nozzle, we can write that efficiency of the nozzle is T04 minus T5 by T04 minus T5s, or T04 minus T5s is equal to 1 by 10 T04 minus T5. But T5 we know that is equal to the critical temperature. Okay, so this will give us what is T5s, this value. Okay, and once we know what is T5s, we can find out what is P5, because the P5 is equal to P5s. So P04 by P5s, sorry, P5s by P04. P5s, remember, is equal to P5. This is equal to, using the isentropic relation between 04 and 5s, this is equal to T5s by T04 to the power gamma by gamma minus 1. So from this we can obtain what is the value of P5. Okay, and after doing some say algebraic rearrangement, you can obtain a nice expression like this. P5 is equal to P04 1 minus 1 by 10 gamma minus 1 by gamma plus 1 to the power gamma by gamma minus 1. Okay, but the idea is that once we have found it, so I will just repeat the steps once more, so as to clarify. First, we have to find the temperature here at choked condition. So the temperature at choked condition is given by this T04 by temperature at choked condition is gamma plus 1 by 2. Okay, because T04 is known, we can find the temperature at choked condition. Once you know the temperature at choked condition, you have to find the corresponding isentropic temperature if the flow was isentropic, okay, instead of frictional losses. So T5s, this is found based on the efficiency of the nozzle. Once you find T5s, we can use the isentropic relation between 04 and 5s. And because P04 is known, we can find out what is P5s. Okay, P5s is equal to P5, so we know what is the critical pressure. So the critical pressure for the actual flow will be lower than the critical pressure for the isentropic flow, as you can see from the diagram. For the isentropic flow also, remember, the nozzle will become choked at this point itself, because the ratio of temperature remains same. So the nozzle will get choked at this point itself. Okay, because this temperature is the temperature at which the nozzle gets choked. So for isentropic flow, the nozzle gets choked not at 5s, but somewhere around here. Okay, and correspondingly, the pressure at that point will be PC, shown in green line, which is higher than the critical pressure for the actual flow. So the critical pressure can vary, although the critical temperature is not varying. So with more frictional losses, critical pressure will keep on decreasing. So you will need more pressure reduction to reach the sonic velocity if there are pressure losses. If there are no pressure losses, you will need less pressure reduction to reach the sonic velocity. Once we find what is P5, we can easily find what is the pressure thrust, P5 minus PA, where PA is the ambient pressure. So this difference in pressure gives us the pressure. So basically, in difference in pressure multiplied by the nozzle exit area gives us the force that is generated due to the pressure difference. So this is known as pressure thrust. To find F5, we can use the mass flow rate we have discussed. So mass flow rate is equal to area density into area into velocity. So m dot is equal to rho 5 F5 V5. So F5 is equal to m dot by rho 5 V5. V5 we have already calculated here, and rho 5 is nothing but critical density at the choked condition, which is P by RT. Density is P by RT using ideal gas law. So at choked condition, density is P at P5 by RT5. So P5 we have already found, T5 we have already found. We can find what is V5. Okay. So ultimately from here we will find what is A5 and then the pressure thrust. So if you add the pressure and momentum thrust, you get the total thrust. And we had ended the class with this by defining a very short problem just to test our understanding that the atmospheric pressure is 0.2 atmosphere. The inlet pressure to the nozzle or turbine exit pressure is 1.2 atmosphere. Inlet temperature of the nozzle is 800 Kelvin. ambient temperature is 230 Kelvin, and nozzle efficiency is 0.9. So we wanted to find out what is the nozzle exit pressure. Any questions up to this point here? I just did a revision of this nozzle part because this is very important, and it will be required for both turbojet, for all turbojet, turbofan, turboprop, ramjet, scramjet, puljet, for any type of engines that we are going to study. This discussion holds true, whatever we have discussed in the previous class and whatever we have revised in today's class. That's why this is so important, and I am putting more emphasis on this. Any questions?
Like here, like will the point 5s be like reachable? Like if the flow is isentropic also. Like,
If the flow is isentropic, obviously you will not follow this line. The flow is isentropic, entropy cannot increase. So you have to follow.
yes, like it will be up to like green line only.
It will be up to green line. Why it will be up to green
Yes.
line, and why will it not go to red line?
Local condition
Yes,
temperature has to be same.
Temperature has to be same, because ultimately once you reach the green line, the temperature drop, whatever is the temperature drop required for going to sonic velocity, is reached. Whether there is friction or not, it does not matter. So friction losses also manifest as temperature changes only. So at this point itself, you will reach the sonic velocity for an isentropic flow. Okay, sonic velocity is reached whenever you reach this temperature. This relation is given by this condition: T04 by Tc is equal to gamma plus 1 by 2. So here you see that the term only as gamma. So gamma is 1.333. So 1.333 plus 1, 2.333 by 2. Okay, so whatever is the value, 1.1667. And T04 is fixed. So if T04 is fixed, Tc has to be T04 by 1.1667. So whatever is, whether there is frictional losses or not. So this height is fixed. Okay. So now for isentropic condition, this height is reached at this pressure itself. So as a result, this will be the critical pressure. So now if there are frictional losses at this point, this will be the critical pressure. If the frictional losses were more, like this, okay, so then we would have reached this point. Okay, we have reached this point at which the nozzle would have become choked. The height remains same, but at this point the pressure would have been much lower than this critical pressure. We would have a new critical pressure. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let us take a look at that small problem. These values are given. So PA is 0.2 atmosphere, P04 is 1.2 atmosphere. So we have drawn the same diagram again. P04 is the constant pressure line at the inlet of the nozzle. T04 is the temperature, stagnation temperature at the inlet of the nozzle, which is given as 800 Kelvin. And P04 is 1.2 atmospheric pressure. P5 is the exit pressure, okay, which we do not know, which we have to find. So it can be equal to atmospheric pressure, it can be higher than atmospheric pressure. At this point, we do not know this, whether it is equal to atmospheric pressure or whether it is higher than atmospheric pressure. And TA is the ambient temperature, okay. We don't know whether this will be required or not. Remember, all data may not be required for solving a problem, okay. So all the data may be given. So in a problem, in an exam, sometimes students think that some data we are not using, something is wrong with the problem. That is not true. Some of the data is required for designing, some of the data may not be required for designing. Okay, excess data may be there. Efficiency of the nozzle is given as 0.9. So what is the value of P5? Okay. So whatever we just discussed now, so T04 will be T0 equal to T05. Okay, because the stagnation properties remain same. you have to be very clear. You should not just memorize the stagnation property remains. Why this is same? This comes from the first law of thermodynamics, because there is no heat exchange and work exchange. So ultimately, the first law of thermodynamics, and if the so what was the first law of thermodynamics? H plus V square by 2 plus Gz. But Gz is the potential energy. So that remains constant if there is no change in work or heat input. Okay. So as we can ignore the change in potential energy, so ultimately H plus V square by 2 remains constant. So kinetic energy plus static enthalpy remains constant. That comes from first law of thermodynamics. So in this case, that is what is true. So H plus V square by 2 remains constant. So as a result, H0, which is the stagnation enthalpy, remains constant in the nozzle. It directly comes from first law of thermodynamics. So T05 is equal to T04 is equal to 800 Kelvin. Okay. So once we have found what is T05, we can find what is T5. So to do this, we yet do not know whether the nozzle is choked or not. So let us assume that the nozzle is choked. Okay. And then we will see what is the value of P5 we obtain. Okay. So what will be our strategy here? We will assume that the nozzle is choked and we will find the value of P5. And if the value of P5, so then how will we decide finally whether the nozzle is choked or not? So we have obtained a value of P5, calculated a value of P5. How will we decide whether
P5
our initial assumption is correct? Yes.
P5 is less than PA, sir.
If the P5 comes out as less than PA, our initial assumption is not valid. Okay. Nozzle will not be choked because we will not be expanding to P5. So we will be expanding to PA. So we will have to recalculate. And if our P5 comes out greater than PA, then our initial assumption is valid that the nozzle is choked. That's why P5 is greater than PA. So whatever we calculate will hold true, and that will be the correct value. Okay. So with this assumption that the nozzle is choked, let us first find P5. So T05 by T5 is gamma plus 1 by 2. We have already discussed. Okay. So so whenever the Mach number is equal to 1, remember how this equation has came? That also you should remember, right? So all the connections, so you don't have to, although these are very basics, you can memorize, but you should know how to derive this. Okay. Just for recapping, just once again, just show this. These parts are so important, and other parts become very simple after this, all the engines. Once this you are very clear. So stagnation to static temperature is related like this, right? T0A is equal to TA plus VA square by 2Cp by definition. By definition, H0A is equal to HA plus V square by 2. Stagnation enthalpy is equal to static enthalpy plus kinetic energy. So stagnation temperature is equal to static temperature plus VA square by 2Cp. So from this we are derived, if you remember, that T0A by TA is equal to 1 plus VA square by 2Cp TA. And the Cp we had replaced by gamma R by gamma minus 1. Okay. So, and then we had separated out this gamma minus 1 by 2 on this side, and we were left with VA square by gamma at TA. And this gamma at TA is nothing but the square of sonic velocity. So CA square. So we found VA square by CA square. So this led to 1 plus gamma minus 1 by 2 MA square. This is a very familiar or very well known equation. Stagnation to static temperature is for a adiabatic flow is 1 plus gamma minus 1 by 2 MA square. So from this we have derived the expression that we are using. From this we have derived the expression that we are using, that if m become equals to 1, we replace it as 1. So 1 plus gamma minus 1 by 2, which becomes gamma plus 1 by 2. That is this equation. Okay. So T05 by T5 is gamma plus 1 by 2 and gamma is 1.333 for the gas, because here the combustion products are present, not air. So this gives us a value of T5 to be equal to 685.8123 Kelvin. So now nozzle efficiency, now the problem is simple. Nozzle efficiency is given 0.9. So T04 minus T5 by T04 minus T5s is 0.9. We have already found T5, T04 is known. So T5s is 673.1247. Okay, so this point is 673.1247. This point was 685. Okay, you can see that that is at a higher temperature. Once you find T5s, P5 by P04 for this isentropic isentropic relation, P5 by P04 is equal to P5s by P04, which is equal to T5s by T04 to the power gamma by gamma minus 1. Here gamma is 1.333. If you plug in the value, P5 will come as 0.6011 atmosphere. So as P5 has come greater than 0.2, okay, our initial assumption is correct that the nozzle is choked because P5 is greater than atmospheric pressure. So this is the final answer, that P5 is equal to 0.6011 atmospheric pressure. If we had used air for the calculations, we would have obtained a slightly different value, 0.5860 atmospheric pressure, because gamma will be 1.4. But we should use the actual properties, gamma G. Say the atmospheric pressure is given as 0.8 atmosphere. In this problem, atmospheric pressure is given as 0.8 atmosphere. What will be the value of P5? Will it be 0.6011 atmosphere or 0.8 atmosphere?
Point 0.8, sir.
0.8 atmosphere, right? Because at that point only we are reaching the ambient condition. So there is no point, or we cannot expand any further. Right? We are already reaching the ambient condition. So we cannot expand. So our initial assumption would be wrong that the nozzle is choked. We will be reaching, because from choked nozzle we need to reach 0.6 atmosphere, but ambient condition is 0.8 atmosphere. So at that point itself the exit will occur. So nozzle will not be choked. And you can find out the velocity from that by doing the appropriate calculation. So now let us try to, so any questions on this? The diffuser and nozzle part should be very clear to you. Please read this part. This is important for all the jet engines. Okay, this is, the other parts are quite easy. Easy means you are very familiar. Compressor, turbine, how to calculate, combustion chamber. These are the new things, diffuser and nozzle. And we need to accurately understand these parts to calculate the characteristics of any type of jet engines. Okay, so characteristic means what is the thrust generated, what is the specific fuel consumption, which is the thrust, fuel per unit thrust, and so things like that. Okay. So let us consider a design problem. Okay, design problem is, so when you are designing an engine, you are designing for a certain range of input parameters, input conditions, with certain design parameters in mind. So we had discussed previously for industrial turbines, what are design parameters? The parameters with which the designer starts the calculation. Okay, so for an industrial turbine, this is the compressor ratio, compressor pressure ratio basically, and what? For an industrial turbine, what are the design input parameters? Design parameters.
Maximum temperature in turbine.
Maximum temperature in turbine, correct. So turbine inlet temperature, which is the maximum temperature in the cycle. So compressor pressure ratio and maximum temperature in the cycle. Okay, these two are the important parameters for industrial turbine. For industrial turbine, the inlet velocity is negligible, so that is not an important factor. Now for jet engines, that additional factor comes also into consideration, that what is the velocity at which, for which you want to design. Now remember the velocity will change with the flight operation. During takeoff, it is less, then it will increase to cruise velocity. Again, it will decrease while landing. So you have to design for a certain cruise altitude. Okay. So actual designing obviously is much more complicated. You have to design for different conditions. You will be designing for cruise altitude for the maximum flow time, maximum flight time. Then for thrust, you have to design for the takeoff thrust because more thrust is required during takeoff. But for our simplicity for this course, let us assume that while designing, we are designing for the cruise altitude. Okay. So the flight altitude is given to us. Why the altitude is important? Why the altitude is important? For design.
The atmospheric pressure will depend on it.
Correct. The atmospheric pressure plus the atmospheric temperature. Both are important, right? Atmospheric pressure and atmospheric temperature. Inlet conditions will depend on the flight altitude. So flight altitude is given as 10,000 meter, okay, which is a realistic value. So typical aircrafts generally fly around this altitude, right? If you take a for turbofans, nowadays we fly by turbofans. Turbofans we fly around 10 kilometer altitude, typically 10 to 9 to 12 kilometer within this range, 30 to 40,000 feet. So Mach number is 0.8, which is also a realistic value for a passenger aircraft, but not for military aircraft. Okay. And the compressor pressure ratio is given as 8. Okay. Turbine inlet temperature, which is the maximum temperature, is given as 1200 Kelvin. So these are our design parameters. Apart from this, certain other parameters are also known parameters while designing, okay, which comes from the manufacturing tolerances and stuff like that. Depending on the your for manufacturing lines basically. So these are the efficiencies. So generally polytropic efficiencies will be known, but let us consider that isentropic efficiencies are given. For the compressor it is 0.87, turbine it is 0.9, diffuser it is 0.93, nozzle it is 0.95. Mechanical efficiency. Remember what is the mechanical efficiency? What is the mechanical efficiency? Mechanical efficiency is given as 0.99. What is this mechanical efficiency?
Transmission efficiency.
Transmission efficiency, correct. So it is the efficiency with which the power from the turbine is transmitted to the compressor. And combustion efficiency is given as 98%. All are realistic values. So why is the nozzle efficiency higher than the diffuser efficiency? If typical tolerances or surface finish are similar for both diffuser and nozzle, nozzle efficiency is higher than diffuser efficiency.
So flow separation.
Can you elaborate? Answer is correct, but I want to see whether you understand this properly. Like what about flow separation?
So the angle at which the diffuser has to be placed is actually quite small, so that flow reversal at the boundaries cannot
Correct.
happen.
So basically the flow is occurring across a adverse pressure gradient, right? Means the pressure is increasing in the flow direction, which is an unfavorable condition. Your pressure is increasing along the length of the diffuser and the flow has to go against this pressure gradient. Unfavorable. So generally flow occurs with decreasing pressure, but in this case flow is occurring with increasing pressure. But for a nozzle, it is a much more simple case that along the flow direction pressure is decreasing, which is like a pipe flow or normal flow. So along a favorable pressure gradient, flow is occurring in the nozzle. So efficiencies are higher for the nozzle. You have correctly told that chances of flow separation is higher in the diffuser. Okay. That's because of flow against the adverse pressure gradient. So these are our design parameters. So also it is given helpfully for us that at 10,000 meter altitude, the atmospheric pressure is 0.265 bar and the atmospheric temperature is 223 Kelvin. Okay, otherwise we have to find using a chart. 223 means minus 50 degrees centigrade, which is also a realistic value. So around the cruise altitude, the temperature is around minus 40, minus 50 degrees centigrade. Okay, outside temperature is very cold. We do not understand it while sitting within an aircraft, but the outside temperature is around minus 50 degrees centigrade. So we want to find out we want to design the engine basically. So we want to find out the characteristics of the engine. So what are the characteristics? The specific thrust. What is specific thrust? If you remember, we have discussed thrust per unit mass flow rate of air. Okay, all the calculations that we do for for jet engines, we try to do per unit mass flow rate of air at the intake. Okay, why? Because then we can scale up any of the calculations. So per unit mass flow rate of air, if we find out what is the thrust, and we know, say per unit mass flow rate, the thrust is 10 kilonewton, 10 kilonewton. Okay, and we know that we need 100 kilonewton of thrust for takeoff. So we know that we will need a mass flow rate of 10 kg per second to obtain 100 kilonewton thrust. So accordingly, we can find out all the area and size of the engine. Okay. So we want to find out the specific thrust and the thrust specific fuel consumption. So per unit thrust, what is the fuel consumption required? Okay, for this design point. So see, I am going very slowly here and trying to describe all the points because I want you to relate this problem. I do not want you to look at this problem just like a numerical problem. Okay, but to relate it as if it is a design problem, as if the designer is designing an engine with these conditions in mind and trying to calculate these values. Okay, because all these are practical values and this is how it can be done. So obviously nowadays you will be doing this in a computer. So what we will be doing we will be doing this for a particular condition. That condition is known as design point. Now we will vary the design point and again redo the calculation. So for many design points, we can redo the calculation and we can draw graphs to find out the variation. For example, we can change the speed from 0.8 to 0.81 Mach number, then 0.82, 0.83 like this, and redo the calculation again and again. And we will be able to obtain a curve for thrust and TSFC versus Mach number. Okay. So typically these most important design parameters are pressure ratio and temperature, inlet temperature. So if we vary the pressure ratio, so 8 instead of 8, if we calculate for 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, we can redo the calculation again and again and find out the specific thrust and thrust specific fuel consumption. And then we can plot the specific thrust versus compressor pressure ratio. Similarly, if you vary the turbine inlet temperature 1200, 1300 Kelvin, 1400 Kelvin, okay, we can find out again the value and we can find out we can plot these values. So each of this set of value is known as a design point. Okay, particular design point for which we are calculating. So we are doing a design point calculation. If we combine many design points, we get the characteristics of the engine. How the different input conditions, input parameters affect the engine. We can draw the curves for that. I will show you using MATLAB today how to do that. Okay, so this is our problem. Let us put the problem open here. Okay. Problem solving is very easy. It is just going step by step. The main thing that I want you to take from this solution is that how to do design calculations. If you want to implement this in a programming language, how to do that. So half of the problem is solved if you can correctly draw the TS diagram. Okay. Let us keep the problem open here. Inlet condition is given PA. So PA is the atmospheric pressure 1265 bar. And so what happens? So we will have a diffuser at the inlet. And TA is also given 223 Kelvin. So PA and TA are known. So A point is fully known. Okay. So then in the diffuser, what happens if you remember correctly? There will be an increase in pressure and temperature. And because it is not an isentropic diffuser, isentropic efficiency is given as 0.93. So the entropy increases. So instead of reaching 0.0A, we will reach 0.01, which should be at the same temperature. Okay, we should be at the same stagnation temperature. Why? Because that is what first law tells us. Because there is no work input or work output from the diffuser and no heat input or heat output from the diffuser. First law tells us that energy will remain conserved. So the stagnation enthalpy will remain conserved. So P01 is equal to P0A at the outlet of the diffuser. Okay. So we will be able to find P01. Okay, we will see how to do that. We will be able to find P01 based on T01 and diffuser efficiency. I think similar problem I had given in the exam also. Okay. So based on diffuser efficiency, how to find pressure. And then from once P01 and T01 are known, we have to find P02 and T02. How will we find P02? So what will happen? The entropy increases further because the compressor is also obviously non-isentropic. And the pressure ratio is given. This is a design parameter. Pressure ratio is 8. So P02 will be obtained from P01. And so basically P02S is equal to P02. So P02S can be obtained from P01. And from P02S and P01, we will be able to obtain T02S using the isentropic relation. Okay. So once you obtain T02S using the efficiency of compressor, we will be able to find T02. We will all do all these things. I'm just going through the process once. So once we find T02, then we have to find point P03. So P02 is known. P03 is the combustion outlet pressure. So it is slightly less than the combustion inlet pressure. And this reduction is given as 4% of the compressor delivery pressure. Okay. So P03 basically is 0.96 of P02. Okay. So once you find P03, this is the turbine inlet pressure. What is the turbine inlet temperature? It is given to us, 1200 Kelvin. So turbine inlet conditions are known. So then what we have to do? We have to find. So after that, what will we do? What will be the next step? Once we have found P03 and T03.
Like you can also find the value of F in the fuel air ratio.
Correct. We will have to find the value of F. Because why do we need to find the value of F? Otherwise, the mass flow rate will not be accurate in the turbine and nozzle, right? So we have to account for the mass flow rate of fuel. Correct. Then so for finding the value of F, we have to use energy balance in the combustion chamber. So the energy which is taken from the fuel is equal to the increase in energy of the gases. So we will use that. We know how to do that. Same as industrial turbines, we will do that. After that, what we will do? In the turbine calculation, what will be the steps?
Compressor work divided by efficiency is equals to turbine
Correct.
work. Sir.
Correct. So compressor work divided by efficiency, mechanical efficiency is the work required from the turbine. So this will give us what? Which value this will give us?
T04.
Correct. So it will give us T04. Once we find T04, then what will we do?
T04S will calculate from efficiency of turbine.
Correct. So we will calculate T04S. Once we find T04S, then what will we do?
P04 we will calculate.
We will will find P04 because the inlet pressure is required for the nozzle, right? Because if you see our nozzle calculations, always the inlet pressure is required for the nozzle. So we'll find P04. So once we find P04, we can use similar calculation like this, what we have done today, to find P5, V5 and T5. So we will assume that the nozzle is choked, and based on this assumption, we will find what is P5 and T5. And if P5 comes out to be greater than PA, then our initial assumption of choked nozzle is correct. If P5 comes out as less than PA, then our initial assumption is wrong. Then the outlet pressure will be PA, and we have to redo the calculation and find out what will be T5 and what will be the velocity. Is this clear to everyone? We'll go through the solution process, numerical values, but the understanding is more important. Numerical values, anyway, anyone can plug and calculate. It does not take too much, say, intelligence to do that. But what is the sequence of calculation is once you understand the diffuser and nozzle process, other parts are very familiar to all of you. So not much difficulty is there. Any questions you can ask me now? Because I'm going to take a break. 1 hour is over. I have to rest my throat and then we'll continue the problem. Okay, then I will take a break of 5 minutes and then we will continue. Okay, so I am back. Can you still hear me and see the screen? Am I audible or what happened?
Yes, sir. Audible.
Okay, somebody has to confirm. If I ask a general question, means not only me, anybody asks a general questions, audience will not answer. There is, I forgot, there's a psychological term for this. But if you specifically ask somebody a question that, hey, you please answer this, then they will answer. So this has very important implications. You know, if you meet with an accident somewhere on the road, and if you say, please help me, everybody will stand there and no one will come to help. But if you say, hey, you come to help me, then the responsibility directly falls on that person. So he or she will have automatically will come for help. So I forgot the term for this. Might already know that. So that is what happens in the class also. If I say that, what will be the answer for this? Everybody will remain silent. If I say that, okay, Aniket, please tell the answer for this, then directly the onus falls on that person. Anyway, so let us come back to the just a second. Excuse me. Okay, we'll continue. So we will do the calculation. So we have already gone through the steps. Let us quickly go through the calculation part. Okay. So for the diffuser efficiency is given as 0.93. Okay. Let us keep the diagram open here. .93. So atmospheric pressure is given as 0.265 bar and temperature is 223.3 Kelvin and atmospheric Mach number is 0.8. Okay, means the flight aircraft Mach number is 0.8. So the speed of sound at that temperature is root over gamma RTA, which is, so gamma here is gamma of air because at the intake we have air. So 1.4 into 287. These values you should remember. Okay, gamma, it is understood that gamma and R of air should be is known to everyone. 1.4 into 287 into 223.3. So root over that is 299.5362. So this is the velocity of a speed of sound at that temperature. So because Mach number is 0.8, we get aircraft velocity as 0.8 into CA, which is 239.629 meter per second. See, here we are not going to use any formulas and stuff. Means whatever we have derived, the expressions. We will go using first principles, step by step. So T01 is equal to T0A, which is equal to TA plus VA square by 2CP. So TA is 223.3. Just a second, please. TA, okay. You can still hear me, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So
Yes,
TA
sir.
is 223.3 Kelvin plus VA square by VA we have calculated 239.62. CP is 1.005 into 10 to the power 3 joule per kg Kelvin. So this gives us T01 is 251.8682 Kelvin. Okay. So this point is we have found T01. We have to find P01 also because then we will be able to find P02 from the compressor pressure ratio. So again, we will use the isentropic efficiency of the diffuser as we have defined previously. So that is equal to P01S minus TA by T01 minus TA. So this gives us T01S. Isentropic efficiency is given as 93%. Okay. So T01S we can find 249.8684 Kelvin. And from now we can use the isentropic relation T01S by TA to the power gamma by gamma minus 1 is equal to P01 by PA, where gamma is 1.4. So this gives us the diffuser outlet pressure, which is 0.3928 bar. So the pressure has increased from 0.265 bar to 0.3928 bar in the diffuser. So certain less amount of compression will be required in the compressor because the diffuser has done part of the compression. For the compressor, pressure ratio is given as 8, efficiency is 0.87. These parts are very familiar. You have done for industrial turbines. I am sure you must have practiced for the exam also. So P02 by P01 is 8. So P02 is equal to 3.1421 bar. And so P02S is also same as P02, right? So T02S by T01 is equal to P02 by P01 to the power gamma minus 1 by gamma. Gamma is 1.4. For the compressor also, air is the working fluid. So this gives us T02S as 456.246 Kelvin. Okay. And using the isentropic efficiency of the compressor, which is given as 87%, we find what is T02, which is 486.7852 Kelvin. This is the compressor outlet temperature, inlet temperature to the combustion chamber. See, this is a typical value. So what is the value? Around 200 degrees centigrade, 213 degrees centigrade. So this is used for here, not in the problem, but in real life, this air at this temperature will be used for cooling of the turbine blades. So air will be taken out from here and it will bypass the combustion chamber, some part of the air. It will not enter the combustion chamber. It will bypass the combustion chamber. This air is known as bleed air. And this air will be transported separately from outside the combustion chamber and injected into the turbine blades through channels which are present in the turbine blades. I will show you towards the end of the course. Okay, when we study about turbines and turbine blades, individual blades. And this comes out through small passages in the turbine blades and mixes with the combustion products. Okay, and is used for cooling of the turbine blades. There are various techniques of cooling. We will study those. So there are small circular holes or there are like thin films are formed. So film cooling is there. Then there is something like a porous medium kind of structure. So all this type of new, lot of research is going on in that area of turbine blade cooling. Anyway, so although we say that cold air is used, actually it is at still more than 200 degrees centigrade, but it is relatively cold as compared to the turbine blade temperature. That is why it is used for cooling. We had discussed this previously. Can you tell me, based on our previous discussion, why this air is used and not why the atmospheric air, which is even colder, it will be better for cooling? Because that is at minus 50 degrees centigrade. We can use it for better cooling. Why this air is used?
Pressure will not be same. Sir.
Pressure will not be same. So you will not be able to force the air through the turbine blades because you need the pressure to be higher than the pressure that is present in that section, right? So here the pressure is highest after the compressor. So this high pressure fluid can be forced to the any section of the turbine. But if your pressure is this pressure, how will you? So the opposite flow will occur through the turbine channels. The combustion products will try to go out through the channels of the turbine. That's why this is required. So all these practical aspects you should know. You should be able to relate. Okay. You should not think about in a dry manner while solving the problem. So for the combustion chamber next, so we have found T02 and P02. So combustion chamber pressure loss is given as 4%. So P03 will be 96% of P02, which is 3.016 bar. Okay. Why? Because P02 is 8 into P01. Okay. P01 is 0.3928 bar and pressure ratio is 8. So P02 is 3.1421 bar and P03 is 3.0164 bar. And T02 we have already calculated. So this is known. Also, turbine inlet temperature is given as a design parameter, which is 1200 Kelvin. So from energy balance of the turbine, the released energy is equal to the calorific value of the fuel into mass flow rate of fuel per unit mass flow rate of air at the intake. Remember, we are doing all the calculation for unit mass flow rate of air at the intake. Okay, m dot a equal to 1. Then we can multiply everything by m dot a to get the actual values. So per unit mass flow rate of air, the mass flow rate of fuel is F, fuel air ratio, into the combustion efficiency, gives us the actual energy released. Combustion efficiency, what was the value? We had some value. I don't remember. 0.898, I think 0.98. Yes. And if we do not know, and calorific value should be 43,000 or something like that. 43,100 kilojoule per kg. All these are realistic values. Okay. This is equal to the change in energy in the combustion products, which is equal to the mass flow rate of combustion product 1 plus F Cp of gas into T03 minus Cp of air into T02. 1 plus F Cp of gas is 1.148 kilojoule per kg Kelvin. T03 is 1200 Kelvin. Cp of air is 1.005 kilojoule per kg Kelvin, and T02 is 486.7852 Kelvin. So if you rearrange the terms, we get F is equal to Cpg T03 minus Cpa T02 divided by eta B QCB minus Cpg T03. All the values are known. This gives us the fuel air ratio as 0.02174. This is also a realistic value. Remember, we had discussed fuel air ratios are typically very low. Why? To keep the turbine inlet temperature lower. If you have a higher fuel air ratio, your T03 will become higher and the turbine blades will not be able to sustain that temperature. So it is designed in such a way so that the turbine inlet temperature is lower. That's why we keep the fuel air ratio low, which means that air fuel ratio is very high. You can see that it is more than 40 air fuel ratio, which is the opposite of fuel air ratio. So once we find F, we have to go to the turbine calculation. All this we have just discussed today itself. So the work output from the turbine is mass flow rate in the turbine, which is 1 plus F. Mass flow rate per unit mass flow rate of air, which is 1 plus F, into your Cp of gas into T03 minus T04. So this into the mechanical efficiency is the work that is transmitted to the mechanical or transmission efficiency is the work that is transmitted to the compressor. So the compressor work is Cp of air into mass flow rate, which is 1 into T02 minus T01. So using this equation now, plug in all the values. Eta m is 0.99, 1 plus F is 1.02174, Cp of gas is 1.148 into 10 to the power 3 joule per kg Kelvin. Remember to, if you keep in kilojoule, then this should be also in kilojoule. 1200 minus 1200 is T03 minus T04. Only unknown is T04 is equal to 1.005 into 10 to the power 3 into 486.7852 minus 251.8682. T01 is, we have calculated right. 251.8682. Okay. So all the values are known. This will give us T04. We find that T04 is 996.68799 Kelvin. This is the outlet temperature. This temperature, outlet temperature from the turbine. This will be the inlet temperature to the nozzle. Okay. Now P03 we have already calculated to be 3.0164 bar, and the efficiency of the turbine is given. So T04S we can find from the efficiency of the turbine. Okay. So efficiency of the turbine is 90%. So 0.9 is equal to 1200 minus 990. T03 minus T04 by T03 minus T04S. This distance by this distance. So this will give us T04S, which is 974.0978 Kelvin. Once we find T04S, once we find this point, we can use this isentropic relation for this process, isentropic process, and find P04. So P03 by P04 is T03 by T04S to the power gamma by gamma minus 1. Here the gamma we have to take gamma of gas, because now this is the combustion products. We have discussed this previously, how to deal with a real cycle. So for a real cycle here, the gamma should be 1.333, not 1.4. Okay, don't make this mistake in the exam. So 1.333. So with this, all the values are known except P04. So we will find P04 as 1.30889 bar. This is the inlet pressure to the nozzle. So inlet temperature is 996.68799 Kelvin. Inlet pressure is 1.30889 bar. Notice that I am going to at least 4 decimal places. Okay. And you should also do that. I see that I tell this every time to all the students, but in the exam, then I see that some students are only doing up to 1 or 2 decimal places. For some cases, your answer will go quite a bit wrong. Okay. And I will not, it is not about marks, but I will also not give full marks in those cases, obviously. But what will happen is that the answer will become very inaccurate. For example, consider this. F is equal to 0.02174. If I approximate it to 2 decimal places, it will be 0.02. So there is a huge difference between 0.02 and 0.02174. Okay. The difference is more than 8%, 8.5%. So we should not, we should go to at least 4 or 5 decimal. So at least 4 significant decimal places we should go to. Okay. While solving the problem. The small things also matter in actual design calculations. Because errors will add up and ultimately your result, final result, you will see that there is 2-3% difference in the final result. Anyway, P04 and T04 we have already found. And we will assume convergent nozzle. I am guessing that no information is given to us, whether it's a convergent nozzle or convergent divergent. So if nothing is given, always assume that it's a convergent nozzle. Okay. So now we have to find the temperature T5 and pressure P5. Okay. So let us assume that the nozzle is choked, like we have done in our previous problem today. So T05 should be equal to T04 based on first law, which is equal to 996.68799 Kelvin. I should write Kelvin here. Don't miss the units. Units are also very important. Okay. Each step you should give the units. So using for an isentropic flow, the stagnation and static properties are related. For Mach number 1 as T05 by T5 is equal to gamma plus 1 by 2, where gamma is 1.333. So this gives us 1.1665. Okay. So T5 is equal to 854.4261. This is exactly same as the calculation we have done today. Only the values are different. T5 is 854.4261. So what will be the next step? We will use the nozzle efficiency to find T5S. So T04 minus T5 by T04 minus T5S is 0.95, which gives us T5S as 846.9386 Kelvin. So now using the isentropic relation for this line, P5 by P04, P5 is equal to P5S. So P5 by P04 is equal to T5 by S by T04 to the power gamma minus gamma by gamma minus 1, where gamma is the gamma of gas. So this gives us P5 as 0.6821 bar. Okay. So since P5 is greater than PA, what was PA? 0.265 bar. So our P5 has come out as greater than PA. It need not be greater than PA. Okay. In most cases for turbojet, it will be greater than PA, but we will see later that for turbofan, it may or may not be greater than PA. So it has come out as greater than PA, so nozzle is choked. So our initial assumption is correct. Okay. So that is why where here I have not denoted it by PA. I have said that P5 is equal to PA or PC. Okay. So this line, if it was PA, this line would be continuation of this line. We do not know this. So that's why I have drawn it as a separate line. Okay. So we have found that actually this line is higher than this PA line. Actually, this is even higher than this P01 line. If you remember, P01 is 0.3928 and our P5 is 0.6821. Actually, this is even higher, but anyway, it's a schematic diagram, so it's not up to scale. So our P5 is 0.6821 bar. So because nozzle is choked, our assumption is correct. So V5 should be equal to the sonic velocity C5, which is root over gamma R T5. R will be 287, gamma is 1.333. Again, a very common mistake is that people take here 0.287. Okay, so you have to convert it to joule per kg Kelvin. SI units. Into T5 we have already calculated, I guess, 854.4261. So plug in the values, you get the velocity as 571.733 meter per second. This is the exit velocity, okay, exhaust velocity. Just one more thing you notice here. So this is at choked condition, so sonic velocity, okay. And so sonic velocity for the aircraft flight should be 299 meter per second, okay. So even if the aircraft goes supersonic, say if the Mach number is 1.2 velocity, so if this is around 300, so Mach 1.2 means that the aircraft is flying at 360 meter per second. But the exhaust gas is still sonic condition, a sonic condition. But it's still much higher, has a much higher velocity as compared to the aircraft velocity. That also we have discussed previously. That's why it is possible to use a choked conversion nozzle to fly a supersonic aircraft. Because when you are considering a supersonic aircraft, you are considering that it is supersonic with respect to the speed of sound of ambient air, which is much lower as compared to the speed of sound in the nozzle exit condition. Okay. So V5 we have found to be 571.733. What is the next task? We have to find the pressure thrust. Velocity, momentum thrust we will be able to find using V5. So for finding pressure thrust, remember we have to find the density. This also we have discussed today. Rho 5 is P5 by RT5. P5 is 0.6821 into 10 to the power 5. Okay, converting to joule. Joule per Pascal per meter square. 0.6821 Pascal into 10 to the power 5 Pascal per meter. Pascals. Newton per meter square. Divided by 287 into 854.4261. T5 is 854.4261. So this gives us a density of 0.27816 kg per meter cube. Okay, so what is the area then? If the density, so mass flow rate at in the nozzle is m dot a into 1 plus f, where m dot a is the mass flow rate of air. So for 1 kg of air, okay, I can keep in terms of m dot a also, or you can do it for 1 kg of air. Okay, if you keep in terms of m dot a like I have shown here, this m dot a term will be present and it will get cancelled later on. Okay, so let us keep in terms of m dot a, or I could have done for 1 kg of air also. So the mass flow rate is m dot a into 1 plus f, which is equal to rho AV. So rho 5, which we have already calculated, A5, which we need to calculate, and V5, which also we have calculated. Plug in the values, you will get A5 is equal to 0.0064247 into m dot a meter square. If you do the calculation for 1 kg per second of air at the inlet, this m dot a term will not be there. So your A5 will be 0.0064247 meter square per kg per second. Okay. So the specific thrust is the thrust divided by the mass flow rate of air. Okay. So there are two thrust components. Remember, one is the momentum thrust. What is the momentum thrust? It is the change in momentum. So the change, so the air is accelerated through the nozzle and it is giving an opposite reaction to the engine. As a result, the engine moves forward. So equal and opposite force is applied as per Newton's third law. So m dot a into 1 plus f is the mass flow rate at the exit into V5. So this is the momentum at the exit, and at the inlet, the momentum is m dot a into Va. So m dot a 1 plus f V5 minus Va. All the parameters are known except m dot a. What is the pressure thrust? It is P5 minus PA, pressure difference at the exit, into A5. Okay, so A5 you can write as 0.0064247 m dot a. So entire thing divided by m dot a is the specific thrust. M dot a gets cancelled. If you have done the calculation per unit mass flow rate, anyway this will be 1 and that m dot a will not be there. Directly we will obtain the solution. So once you plug in the values, you get that this is the moment. I have shown it separately just to show you what is the extent of the specific thrust from the change of momentum and what is it from the change of pressure. So 344.5335 Newton per kg per second. So per kg per second of mass flow rate. So per unit mass flow rate, 344.533 Newton of thrust is generated due to the change in momentum. But see that the pressure also is a strong contributing factor here because the nozzle is choked. The pressure thrust is 267.974. So we could not have ignored it because it's such a big contributor. 267.974 Newton per kg per second. So ultimately, I, which is the specific thrust, is 612.5077 Newton per kg per second. We also need to find the thrust specific fuel consumption. Remember the what is the definition of thrust specific fuel consumption? Fuel consumption per unit thrust. So mass flow rate of fuel per unit thrust. Mass flow rate of fuel is m dot f, which is fuel air ratio into mass flow rate of air by thrust. Okay. So F by I basically, because capital F by m dot A is specific thrust. Okay. So air fuel air ratio is 0.02174 and without any unit, and thrust is specific thrust is 612.5077. Unit is Newton per kg per second. So the overall unit for this is kg per Newton second. Remember that generally we convert it to kg per Newton per hour for more practical purposes. For kg per Newton per second, this value comes out to be 3.54934 into 10 to the power minus 5 kg per Newton second. If you multiply this by 3600, you get the value of kg per Newton per hour. So which comes out to be 0.1278 kg per Newton per hour. So please go to 3-4 decimal places. Otherwise, if your value is 0.129, that is not correct. Okay. So then you should not say that I have got 0.129 and the answer is 0.1278. It's almost correct. Why you are deducting marks like this? So the practical implication of this is that per Newton of thrust, we need 0.1278 kg of, or say approximately 0.13 kg of fuel per hour. So if I need to fly an engine, if I am designing an engine and it will fly for 10 hours, say it will go from here to, say from Kolkata to London, it takes 10 hours. Okay. And this is the TSFC. So we know that per Newton of thrust, I will need 0.13 kg of fuel. So per hour. So for 10 hours, I will need 1.3 kg of fuel per Newton. Now, if our thrust is 50 kilonewton, I will need 50,000 into 1.3 kg of fuel. So accordingly, you can find out what is the total fuel requirement for the flight. Okay. So this is the problem. This is known as also known as design point calculation, because you are doing the calculation for a particular design point. Similar calculations can be done for other design points by varying one parameter at a time. So you will keep all the other parameters same, but say just change the pressure ratio from 8 to 9. Then what will happen? From 9 to 10, then what will happen? From 10 to 11, then what will happen? So for each design point, we can do calculations and then we can plot them together to find the characteristics of the jet engine. So those parameters, these variations are known as characteristics. Any questions? Is the problem clear to everyone?
No, sir.
No or yes? Yes.
No, sir, no doubts.
Okay. Fine. Then let us move on. Let us try to understand a little bit about performance characteristics of turbojet. We will not do it for all aircrafts, but for turbojets, because this is the first one we are studying, let us go into some more depth. And as an assignment, programming assignment, I will give you programming assignment for turbofan, most probably, as I was saying from long back. I have to, once I feel better, I have to sit down and first I have to check whether it is possible to do that. Then only I can give right. So let us try to find the characteristics. Okay, how it looks like. Thrust well specific. So what we have done till now, for a particular design point means compressor pressure ratio is given to us, or we have decided as an engineer. Turbine inlet temperature we have decided, and ambient conditions we have decided. Okay, so for those conditions, we have found specific thrust and thrust specific fuel consumption. Okay, per hour, which is more practical. So now what has to be done if you want to find out the characteristics or performance of an engine, whether it is turbojet, turbofan, turboprop, ramjet, whatever, we have to do the same calculation by varying one parameter at a time. So we'll keep all the other parameters fixed and first just vary the one of the most important parameter, which is the pressure ratio, compressor pressure ratio. Okay. So RC. So by taking a different value of RC, we will find out what is the value of TSFC and what is the value of I. Then again, we will take a different value of RC. Again, we will find out what is the value of TSFC and what is the value of I. And then we will see how these plots look like. Okay. So this is how you draw the characteristics of an engine. Okay, performance characteristics of an engine. Let us see that. I will not go through the program, obviously, because it's just the same set of calculations that I have shown here. But I will just show you the graphs, how it looks like. What I have done is I have changed the RC value going from 5 to 30. Okay, my font size may be very small because my resolution is very high. Is it visible to you guys? Fonts?
No, sir.
How to increase the font size? Anyone knows in MATLAB? I don't want to decrease the resolution. Then everything again I have to rechange. Does not matter because I can show the graphs anyway. I will just explain. So I have taken a compressor pressure ratio starting with 5. So my first calculation, design point calculation, will be similar to the calculation that we have done. I have taken compressor efficiency as 0.87, turbine efficiency as 0.9. You can just listen to me. Diffuser efficiency as 93%, nozzle efficiency as 95%, mechanical or transmission efficiency as 99%, combustion efficiency as 98%, and pressure loss percentage as 4%. Similar to our problem, calorific value I have taken as 43,100 kilojoule per kg. Okay. Gamma of air I have taken 1.4, gamma of gas 1.333, Cp of air 1005 joule per kg Kelvin, and Cp of gas 1148 joule per kg Kelvin. Mach number here I have taken 0.6. You could have taken 0.8 also. I don't know. Maybe I was showing something because this I have written last year. So maybe I was showing something for effect of Mach number. That's why 0.6. Ambient temperature 223.3 and ambient pressure 265.265 into 10 to the power 5. And RS 287. So all the values are almost similar to what except the Mach number. So anyway, you can change that. And turbine inlet temperature I have fixed 1200 Kelvin, and only factor why I am varying is the compressor pressure ratio. So I start with 5 and do the design point calculation. The exact set of calculation that we are doing. Okay, similar to that. I might have taken some approximation while calculating the fuel air ratio, but otherwise it is almost similar. Then I change the compressor pressure ratio by a small amount. Instead of 5, I make it 5.1. Again, do the calculation, find out what is the thrust specific fuel consumption and the specific thrust. Then I make it 5.2 compressor pressure ratio. Again, do the calculation. Like this, I continue until I go to pressure ratio of 30. So from 5 to 30 at increments of 0.1, I am doing the same set of calculation again and again. Okay, and finding out the specific thrust and thrust specific fuel consumption, and then plotting them. This will give us the variation of thrust specific thrust and thrust specific fuel consumption with respect to RC, compressor pressure ratio. Okay, characteristics, engine characteristics for that. Let me explain the figure. So the horizontal, so here I know it. Horizontal axis is the RC value going from 5 to 30. And what is the vertical axis for this? Let us see figure 1, right? Figure 1. Thrust specific fuel consumption in terms of hour. Okay, thrust specific fuel consumption in terms of hour. So we can see that the specific fuel consumption is reduced with increasing value of pressure ratio. Okay. What is beneficial? Higher TSFC or lower TSFC? Yes. We want higher TSFC or lower TSFC?
Lower value.
Lower, right? Because it means that less fuel will be required for the same thrust. We need lower value. So with increasing pressure ratio, we get, actually what we get is what happens with increasing pressure ratio. Just a second. So your inlet energy will be reduced. Compressor pressure ratio is increased. Turbine inlet temperature will decrease. Thrust will decrease. But the fuel, okay. So with increasing pressure ratio, your compressor outlet temperature increases. Okay, you have more compression. So the amount of energy that needs to be added in the combustion chamber is reduced significantly. This the 0.2 point is very near to, means nearer to 0.3 point. Okay, as a result, less fuel is required. However, the thrust is also reduced because more work is reduced for running the compressor. So the turbine outlet will occur at a lower temperature. So the thrust generated by the nozzle will be less. So although the thrust is reduced, but the fuel is reduced to such an extent that the specific fuel consumption is actually reduced. Means it becomes much more efficient. It becomes much more beneficial to have a higher compressor ratio. So nowadays, typical turbojets actually operate with quite a high compressor pressure ratio, not in the range of 5 to 10, but around 20 or even higher. Okay. And in our problem, what was the value that we had obtained? Although it was obtained with Mach 0.8, we had obtained a value of 0.1278. Okay. At 8, so at around this point. Here it is with 0.6. So let me just see whether we can try to get. what values we get, because I have done some approximation here. Anyway, you can also write the program and check. Where is Mach number? 0.8. I could have just shown you the plots, but my idea is to show you that actually we can do these calculations very easily. It's not a big task. So we had around value of 8, okay, and for this we are obtaining a slightly less one because I have done some approximation in the calculation, but it will be around 0.12, say around this point. We had obtained 1 to 8, slightly higher thrust specific fuel consumption. So, so this is one of the characteristics, okay, how the thrust specific fuel consumption varies with pressure ratio. The other important parameter is the specific thrust. Okay, so for specific thrust, the variation looks like this. So just written this in the program, that would have been easier. Where is my figure? Post it. Huh? Next time I will write this in the program itself. So with increasing pressure ratio, the specific thrust first increases and then it starts decreasing. Okay, so initially it increases a bit because initially so what happens is that, so specific thrust depends on what? What is specific thrust? Per unit mass flow rate of air. What is the thrust generated? So thrust will, so with higher compressor pressure ratio, what happens? You will need large amount of turbine work input. So the thrust that can be generated by the nozzle is reduced. Okay. So only for the initial part, when the pressure ratio is very small, you have also have a significant amount of pressure thrust also, because the turbine outlet temperature is quite high. So very little amount of work is required by the turbine initially. So large amount of expansion can be done in the nozzle. So nozzle gets choked and then you have large amount of pressure thrust. So per unit mass flow rate, you get higher thrust. But after that, what happens? If you keep on increasing the compressor pressure ratio, your compressor work input will increase. As a result, the turbine work input, the turbine work that is required will also keep on increasing. So this point will come lower and lower, the 0.4. So the thrust that can be generated becomes lower. So finally, the output is like this. So there is an optimum value at which you get the maximum thrust. Okay, not much variation is occurring, although it looks like this. It's only from 520 to 590, but there is an optimum value. Okay. So this is how the variation of specific thrust looks like, specific thrust versus RC. So what is done generally to create performance maps is that the specific thrust is mapped to the thrust specific fuel consumption. Okay, so we have a particular set of values of specific thrust for compressor pressure ratio. And we have a set of thrust specific fuel consumption. I open the editor, that closes. We'll manage like this. Don't want to waste too much time. At least line should be visible to you. So these two graphs, if we compare, okay. So the x-axis is same. X-axis is the compressor pressure ratio going from 5 to 30. So one is showing the thrust specific fuel consumption, one is showing the. So this is showing the thrust specific fuel consumption on the right hand side, and the left hand side is showing the specific thrust. So based on this, we can plot the thrust specific fuel consumption versus specific thrust. Okay, and it looks like this. It looks like this. This is the same data, but plotted in a different way. Okay. So I have taken this axis versus this one. Okay. For the same, so for the same corresponding, for the same values of R, say for R equal to 5, what is the thrust specific fuel consumption and what is the thrust specific thrust? For R is equal to 6, what is the thrust specific fuel consumption and what is the specific thrust? Like this, if we do, we get a curve like this. This is known as performance characteristic of the turbojet engine. Okay. So this gives us, for a certain turbine inlet temperature, how the specific thrust varies, or how the thrust specific fuel consumption varies with the specific thrust. So we can see that there is an optimum value at which you get maximum specific thrust, and it occurs at a certain amount of thrust specific fuel consumption. If we want to go for less fuel consumption, your specific thrust will get reduced. If you want to go for more thrust, okay, your specific fuel consumption will increase. So this is for a particular single turbine inlet temperature. Okay, particular single turbine inlet temperature, and this looks like this. What I have just shown, you can assume that this is one of the curves, like say this curve. Okay, it looks much flatter here because the axis properties are different, but look at the values. It is between 500 and 600. Okay, and going from say 0.09 to somewhere around 0.12. Okay, our values will be in the same ballpark because these inlet conditions will be different. So ours is also going from 520 to 590 and from 0.09 to 0.13. Okay, so this is the same curve as the curve that you are seeing here, single curve, this one curve. Okay, so this is for 1200 Kelvin temperature, turbine inlet temperature. So same type of curves we can draw for other turbine inlet temperature. Okay, 1400, 1600, 1800. Okay, and if you draw like this, so this is another curve for 1400. This is for 1600. You will see that with increasing temperature, the specific thrust increases, and the thrust specific fuel consumption also increases. And this also we can show using the similar type of program. Okay. So this is showing for the same set of conditions that we had done previously. Keeping the, I forgot what is, let me just check. What is the exact RC as 8, keeping the compressor pressure ratio as 8. Now we are varying the turbine inlet temperature, going from 1000 to 1800 in steps of 100. Okay. And what we see is that the specific thrust increases from say 525 to up to some 800 something. So specific thrust almost linearly it increases with turbine inlet temperature. Why does the specific thrust increase with turbine inlet temperature? Mass flow rate of air remains same. Okay, mass flow rate of air remains same. So if you increase the turbine inlet temperature, what happens? Turbine work output, will it change? Turbine work output,
No,
will it
sir.
change? It won't change because the compressor pressure ratio is fixed. So turbine work output remains same, but turbine inlet temperature has increased. So turbine outlet temperature will also increase, right? Because delta T remains same. So it means that more enthalpy is available for expansion in the nozzle or for generation of thrust, right? More energy is available for generation of thrust. As a result, per unit mass flow rate, the thrust increases almost linearly. It increases. Similarly, the fuel consumption. Fuel consumption also increases almost linearly. You can see with increasing temperature, fuel consumption also increases at constant compressor pressure ratio. Can you explain this curve? Why this happens?
So adiabatic temperature of the fuel combustion.
Here,
The temperature of the combusted products is directly related to the amount of fuel.
correct. So we need more temperature. So we need more amount of fuel. So both increases, right? So that's why you can see from here, just consider a single one of the compressor pressure issue. So remember, so can you say for this curve, can you say how the RC varies for this 1200-degree curve? How the RC varies? Compressor pressure ratio varies. Does the RC vary along that curve or not?
So it is given in the contours, right?
Oh, it is shown. Okay, I did not see. So it is shown already. We have also drawn this using MATLAB. Correct. So RC is actually increasing. Okay. So for a particular RC, say 10, we have seen that with increasing temperature. So if you fix the RC, if you increase the turbine inlet temperature from 1200 to 1800, both the fuel consumption will increase as well as the thrust will increase. So ultimately, you can draw lines like this. Okay. For constant temperatures and constant, these are for constant RC and these are for constant temperature. So you get a map like this. This is known as performance map. Okay, characteristic map or performance characteristic of the turbojet engine. And this is for a particular inlet condition, inlet Mach number. So if you vary the inlet Mach number, there will be another map, or you will have to generate a 3D map with different Mach number. Okay, this is for 0.8. So you get the idea now how to generate maps like this. You should be able to generate maps like this if I give you an assignment, okay, or if you want to design an engine. So what is the usefulness of this map? Usefulness is that this is the same map what I am showing here. It is shown without any scale. Okay. So on the vertical axis you have the specific fuel consumption, thrust specific fuel consumption, and the horizontal axis is specific thrust. So for different types, so this performance maps gives us what type of engines are suitable, or what types of, not engines, sorry, what types of parameters are suitable for what applications. Okay. For example, if I need very high fuel economy, it means that, and also I need very high thrust. Okay. So I need very high thrust means I have to go for higher thrust. So somewhere on the right hand side, and high fuel economy means less SFC. So lower on the map. So somewhere around here I have to go. Okay. So for long range subsonic aircrafts, you need good thrust also, like large passenger aircraft which go for long distances. You need good thrust also, and high fuel economy means low fuel consumption. So we operate in this range. So it gives us a range of what should be typical value of RC and turbine inlet temperature. So you can see that we need very high turbine inlet temperature and we need very high compressor pressure ratio for commercial type of aircraft. Okay. On the other hand, if it is a business jet, okay, business aircraft generally fly for less time. So sporadically, not like commercial aircraft fly every day continuously for 10, 12 hours, whereas business aircraft will be flying sporadically, only intermittently. So fuel consumption is not an important parameter for business aircraft. Okay, and very high thrust is also not required. What is important for business aircraft is that the cost should be low. The aircraft capital cost of purchasing the aircraft should be low. Okay, so as a result, they are designed in this region with. So in this region, what is the value? Temperature will be low. Turbine inlet temperature. Turbine inlet temperature higher means more cost because you need more costly turbine blades, more costly cooling technique. Okay, better say super alloys, better single crystals. So the further you go along this axis, along the temperature, the cost increases. And further you go along this axis, along the pressure ratio, then also the cost increases because number of stages of compressor increases, number of stages of turbine also increases. Okay. So if you are on this top left corner, the capital cost is lowest. And if you are on the bottom right corner, the capital cost is highest, means the initial cost of construction and design is the highest. So for business jet, you want the cost to be as low as possible, but you don't care about fuel economy so much because it is sporadically flying. So we design with low compression pressure ratio and lower amount of lower turbine inlet temperature. Some specific other applications are there where fuel consumption is not important, but large thrust is required. Okay, like some type of engines which for heavy lifting, military aircraft which do heavy lifting. Okay, so very large thrust is required, but because it's a military aircraft and they operate for a very short duration, it does not need during the lifting part. It needs the maximum thrust. So during that time, fuel consumption is not a concern. So we can go for this corner. So which is high turbine inlet temperature but less compressor pressure ratio. Okay. So this map actually gives us an idea about what should be the operating parameters, what should be the pressure ratio and turbine inlet temperature typical range for different types of application. This also shows you what will be the characteristics of the engines. For example, if you keep on increasing the temperature, after a certain temperature, you will need cooled blades. This is shown by the dashed line. Below this temperature, even uncooled blades are sufficient. You don't need separate cooling because the blade material itself will be single crystal of super alloy that should be able to tackle that temperature. Similarly, if you keep on increasing the pressure ratio, there will be a point after which you cannot use a single spool. Spool means multi-spool means multiple shafts are there, one inside the other. Can somebody say why for very high compressor pressure ratio we need multi-spool? With this we'll finish the class. For lower compressor pressure ratio, a single shaft is sufficient. For higher compressor pressure ratio, some of the compressor stages, the high pressure stages are combined with the high pressure turbine stages, and low pressure stages are combined with the low pressure turbine stages.
So, in case of such multi-spool, the blade velocity will not be very high.
Correct. So for a single spool, those who have like not understood his answer, for single spool, all the blades or all the stages are rotating at the same angular rotational speed. So if there are a large number of stages, what will happen if RC increases? The number of stages will increase. So the final stages of the turbine and first stages of the compressor will have very long blades. Okay, because the pressure is low. And because they are rotating at the same speed, angular speed, their linear velocity at the tip will be very large. So the turbine blades, which will be rotating at very large linear velocity at the tip, will undergo lot of centrifugal stress. So as a result, you need to keep the angular velocity low. So this will affect the efficiency. If you lower the angular velocity, then even for the inner stages also angular velocity will be lower. If you want to keep the angular velocity higher, the blades will fail. So what is done is that the high pressure stages rotate at higher speed and the low pressure stages rotate at lower speed separately. There are concentric shafts have here. For turbofan, I will show you. For the low pressure stages, they rotate at lower velocity, so lower angular velocity, so that the linear velocity is kept in check. Okay, so that's why for lower compression pressure ratio we need a single shaft, but for higher pressure ratio we need multi-spool, and accordingly the cost and weight will increase, as you can see from here. With increasing pressure ratio, cost and weight is increasing. Here also cost is increasing with increasing temperature, and life is decreasing. Okay, turbine increasing. So that's how. So now you should have a very good idea about, means instead of memorizing, how these plots are generated by doing design point calculation for each parameter, then varying one of the parameter like pressure ratio and redoing the calculation, then again running an outer loop and calculating for different temperatures. For each temperature, again for all the pressure ratio, the calculations. So we will be ultimately able to get a 2D map. Now, if I do the same calculation for different Mach numbers, say 0.8, 0.85, 0.9, then I will get a 3D map. On the third axis, I will have the Mach number also. Okay. And you can go for higher order maps, for 4D map, 5D map, if the inlet temperature, if you vary inlet temperature and pressure. Okay. We will stop here today. And any questions? Is it clear what we have discussed today? Very important things.
Yes, sir.
So study this, and in the next class is tomorrow. We will start the turbofan engine. If there are no more questions, let me stop the recording.